Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. We are officially live for the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. I'm your host, Josh Fisher, recruiter, founder of Crew Talent Group, marathon completer. What up? Happy Tuesday. Got a little mustache. Hope you're having a great week so far. Say hello in the chat if you're joining in. If you're new here, I go live every single Tuesday for 1 hour. We call it Claims Recruiter Office Hours. We just kind of hang out and talk jobs, recruiting, all that good stuff. This is episode 27. Doing this for 27 weeks. We took 1 week off. We are back. Make sure this chat works. Say hello if you are tuning in. We'd love to hear from you. Guys, we will get right into it. Beautiful scorcher of a day. Thank you, Caleb. Thanks for tuning in. Congrats on the big race. Thank you, dude. I've been training for a long time. For a long time. Hope you're having a great week so far. Hope the weather's nice. Hope you had a good 4th of July weekend. I sure did. Consisted of me complaining about how bad my legs hurt. Yeah, I figure I'd start this thing off with a little bit of a race recap. Went out. I should pull the numbers up. I won't bore you with the numbers, but I was shooting for 3:30. That was my goal. A lot of my training runs had large portions of the run at that time. I was doing some speed work at that time. Basically, a 3:30 is 8-minute mile, the entire race. I got injured pretty early in my Ironman next from Nate Jackman adjusting. No, Ironman is not next. Those people are on a different level. Maybe like I said, I don't swim. I also don't bike. I think maybe I'll get a little bit more into swimming. I don't know about biking. I should get a bike. I live in Portland, Oregon. I should have a bike. Yeah, I went out, set this thing out for a 3:30 goal about 6 months ago. Been training for that. Got injured pretty early in my training. Had some foot issues, which is pretty common. So that kind of stunk. And then right before my taper, my longest run was a 20-miler. I ran that run with the last 8 miles of that run were at race pace, so 8-minute mile, and that was on pretty tired legs. I had done already like 20 miles that week, so that week was like 44 miles total. Injured myself a little bit lifting 2 days after that run, which was a huge bummer. And so my taper was like super weird. I don't know if that was part of it. I don't know if everything would have gone well, if I would have hit 3:30, who knows? Only speculate. But I learned a lot. Learned a lot about how the training plans work. The biggest thing, my biggest takeaway was just like, I pushed myself too hard every training session, and there was a lot of times when maybe I shouldn't have. I wasn't feeling good. I shouldn't have gone out for a run, or I should have taken it more easy. And I think that accumulated fatigue kind of wore on me and was a reason for some of the injuries in the training plan. So I think in the future I have to up my mileage sooner and then keep that high mileage at lower paces. So go slower instead of going at higher paces. I think 40% of my training was at race pace. It's supposed to be like 20. So all in all, I'm super happy with how it all turned out. Honestly, like part of me is kind of, I'm glad I blew up. I would rather have left it all out there than to go slow. And like if I didn't hit 3:30, I don't really care if it was 3:36 or 3:45. I blew up at 22. Absolutely blew up. My 22, I was averaging like a 7:45 mile up until 22, and then it was like 10:45, 10:45, 10:45, and then my last mile was 8:30. So I was really close. So yeah, we'll see what's next. I don't really know. Actually, I do know. What's next is we're having a party, and it's going to be in Austin, Texas on January 17th. So if you're into running, if you're interested in running, and you want to have a party, we're going to have a party in Austin, Texas on January 17th. That's MLK Sunday at the finish line of the Austin International Spurs Downhill Half Marathon. That's what's next. We're going to have a party at the finish line. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to PR. I got 6 or 7 friends that are going to sign up for this race, are ready. Let's get like 25 people there. It's going to be an absolute party. So I don't know if you're listening, you want to run a half marathon. Let's rock. Austin, Texas, January 17th. We're going to PR. We're going to go sub 130. It's going to be awesome. Get me fired up. That's what's next. Probably going to do the Portland Full Marathon on October 4th. I'm not really planning on racing that. It'll probably be more of like a fun time for me. Maybe have some drinks during the race. I don't know. We'll see. So October 4th, we're going to have a party at the Portland Full. January 17th, we're having a party in Austin, Texas at the finish line of the Spurs International Half. That's what's next, though. That's going to be a PR day. That's going to be a huge day. Great time. Come hang out. Hit me up if you want to come race that. It's going to be an awesome time. Course is all downhill. It's in Austin, Texas. Great time afterwards. Live music. There's a band at every mile. Like 10,000 people run that race. Absolute party. James says, still a great race. Sub 330 next time. Dude, I don't want to think about that right now. Hopefully. I'm going to go like sub 315 next time. I got a buddy who's training for the Ashland, Oregon Marathon. A guy in my run club. He's currently putting on 65 miles a week, trying to go sub 3. Shout out Brian. And that's like 3 months out. But that's not why we're here. I know it's been a big part of my life, so I appreciate anybody who's been supporting me in this journey. James, Nate, Caleb, I appreciate you guys tuning in here, listening to me talk about marathon running over the last so many months. My wife, she's sick of hearing about it. She's sick about hearing how my legs hurt. Never been a runner, but Austin sounds fun, dude. It's a party. That race is so much fun. I cannot. All I'm saying is if you started today, you'd be able to finish a race in 6 months. Build up to it, get in there, Claude. Absolute party of a race, like 10,000 people, huge party at the finish line. Then we go out into the town, shower first maybe. It's a great time. My buddy Elliot, shout out Elliot. He was the one that kind of got me into this. He was the one that convinced me to sign up for my first race, which was the Austin Half last year. We both did that. I did it with a couple friends. His parents came down. So we're going to do it again. Have some more friends coming this year. You guys want to come, we'll hang out too. Yeah, so far I think we got to get Justin. He does it. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bailey recently started running for distance. It is a mental. That's what it is. It's just mental. But I will say the way to do hard things in life is to practice doing hard things, and running for me has been that thing where consistently doing it over and over has trained me in my mind to start pushing through some things that I didn't think I could do before. And so that would be my challenge to anybody listening, is it doesn't have to be running, but find something in your life that's hard. Pick a goal. Running is such a perfect representation of that, because you sign up for a race, you have a very specific goal. You can't cheat it. You can't pay. You can do all the PT sessions, you can do all the stretch labs, but you can't cheat the actual miles. You can't cheat the time on your feet. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Whatever that might be, you can't cheat it. So whatever that is for you in your life, it doesn't have to be athletic even, it doesn't have to be running, be chess for all I care. But I think it's really important that people go out and do things that challenge themselves on a daily basis for your own just mental and physical health, to like do hard things, I think is so important. It's been my mantra throughout this whole thing, is do hard things. It's been awesome for me personally, and I appreciate anyone who's been along for the journey. God, that was hard though. Mile 22, I swear I wanted to quit so many times. Oh my goodness. I can't put it into words. I cannot put it into words. My body just broken down. Work must be done. The mind quits long before the body. I quit. I almost quit that race. I'm telling you. My body was broken. My body still is broken. I can't really go upstairs still. It's been about 4 days. Still have trouble on the stairs. I have the craziest blisters, which is so weird because I never got blisters at all during training. 20 miles, no blisters, nothing. I have like the craziest blisters. I think I'm gonna lose one of my toenails. I have the craziest blisters I've ever seen on my foot. And it was weird. I think what the problem was, it was on a road and the road wasn't flat. It kind of like was that shape. So I was kind of leaning to the side. I think just like the angle of the road is what maybe caused the blisters. That was different than, I guess, my training and things like that, but wasn't necessarily prepared for that. I felt at mile 13, I was like, my foot is messed up. But just push through it. Just push through it. They called it the downhill flat. There was about a little bit. How much water did I drink? I don't even know. I mean, there was water stations about every 3 miles. I would say I had like a couple of sips of Gatorade. So I don't know how much water I necessarily drank. I had 6 goo gels during the race, and they also had electrolytes in them, and some of them had caffeine in them, some of them didn't have caffeine. So that was like one of the things of running and long distance is you have to eat basically while you do it, otherwise your body will break down. That gives you energy, and so I focus really heavily on eating but not as much drinking. So I'm not really sure, but yeah, I had basically like at all the water stations, they had these like little mini cups, like the little 12 ounces, or the 12 ounces, like the little like 4-ounce cups you get at like the dentist's office. And I had like 1 or 2 of those, but I wasn't really even getting it all down. I was just kind of taking a couple sips every 3 miles or so. What motivated you to push through the wall at mile 22? I was just thinking about mainly my training plan, difficult moments in my training plan, all the time that I'd worked for it. There was a very specific moment in my training where I was an 18-mile run, and I was doing, I think, the last 6 at race pace, and I was struggling. I was like 16 miles into it, and I was struggling, and it just started downpouring. And it was just kind of like comical, like I was having a horrible time, and it was downpouring, and that rain kind of like pushed me through mentally. So that was what I was thinking about mile 22. And then mile 25, I was basically like walking and then running and then walking and then running, and my left leg was like fully cramped up. Like I can't even, like, you see those videos, the dude's like falling over at marathons, like that's how I felt at 25. And then this woman like ran up behind me and started like yelling at me, and it just like flipped a switch. And so like 22 through 25, I was like run, walk, run, walk, run, walk. And this lady was like, come on, you got this. Like, and then I, in my head, I'm like, I can do this. It's a 1 more mile. And so I ran with her the entire last mile, and somehow went from an 8:30 or went from like a 10:30 mile 25 to mile 26 was an 8:30 mile. So my last 1.2 miles was like 9 minutes. So shout out random stranger on the course for supporting me and pushing me through. That was like in a way symbolic and pretty cool. I don't even know her name. That's what's crazy. I talked to her a little bit after the race, but I was like, my body was so broken down, I was in like a state of shock almost. I couldn't even have a conversation. Yeah, I'm high from it still. I mean, I'm riding that high. I'll come down in a couple days and get back to work. Hopefully in a few days I can maybe exercise again. My body is still not in a good way. Got some blisters, got this toenail. My office in my house right now is like up a flight of stairs. It's actually like the upstairs that I'm in my house. There's multiple bedrooms, but I'm in an upstairs bedroom basically. So to get to this office, I have to walk up like 10 stairs and walk back down 10 stairs. And that seems like Mount Everest right now. I have to take like one stair at a time, 1 foot at a time, like got the handrail. It's crazy out there. But honestly, thank you all so much for pushing me, for motivating me from the interwebs, from supporting me from afar. I could not have done this without the support system that I have, whether it's you guys, whether it's my wife, whether it's my run club, whether it's the Catalyst community, Adjuster Insights, different communities that I've been able to be a part of. It's been awesome. And that's one of the cool things about running is it's really not an individual sport. It seems like it's mental battles yourself, but there's so many people around you supporting you and cheering you on. And my run club here in Portland, so cool. Lane 1, shout out Lane 1. Bunch of dudes, we hang out and run a 5K on Wednesdays and have some drinks after. But boom, that's the marathon. That's it. We'll push through it. We did it. On to the next. Party in Austin, January 17th. We need to come up with a team name. I need a team name for all like my friend group that's going to come down and do this. So a lot of them are from Minnesota. Got to think about that. All the Minnesota homies and Wisconsin homies. Okay, let's keep her moving. Hear you winning. Shout outs. Love to hear people winning out there on the internet. Got an email this week from Carol. Let's find this email. I can't find it. Well, shout out Carol. I know I'm not able to read your email because I can't find it right now, but shout out Carol if you're listening. Carol sent me an email saying that she was able to get not 1, not 2, but 3 different assignments. Was looking for work in the IA space, and so we're up to 25. We're adding her to the road to 100. So shout out Carol. Congrats on the new assignments. IA work's not dead. I know it's been a weird year. Been an interesting season. It's been an interesting couple years for the independent adjusting world, but still out there. So shout out Carol, getting some work. Hopefully you stay fed here for a minute. Hopefully some of these recent storms keep you busy. I've been seeing some of these recent storms. Utah, holy smokes. I mean, I've been saying this for a while, you know, following the snow reports, the wintertime, and now in the summertime. Living in Portland, I mean, we've got fireworks were banned all throughout the city. Really not good, not good situation. Drought. There was a fire out on the coast this past weekend. I've seen some pretty major fires in Utah. I saw a ski area get pretty messed up in Utah. There's a fire out in Telluride right now, Telluride, Colorado. So fire season, if you're an independent adjuster or someone that relies on weather events for work, fire season is here. It's not looking good. Hopefully we don't have any major catastrophe fires. Yeah, shout out. Congrats, Carol's in the chat. Yeah. But no, if you're an independent adjuster out there looking for work, you know, the firework that's some hard work. You really earn your money there. Smokers are interesting claims. Difficult work. I don't wish fire on anyone. That is not a peril that we would like to see. You don't mind a hailstorm here or there. Fire, we don't want fire. It's not good. So yeah, hopefully, knock on wood, we get some rain out here. Colorado gets some rain. Utah gets a little bit of relief, but you've been seeing some of it. We're seeing some hail. We're seeing some additional weather events. Oklahoma, I saw. I think Ohio got hit a little bit. So if you're an independent adjuster, there is still work out there. Obviously, it's changed a whole lot. And then the hurricane season, you know, they're saying now super El Nino. The water's heating up. The It's gone up 2 degrees. Really interesting, following the patterns there. We'll see. It all just takes one big storm. So you never can count out hurricane work. It's just kind of a lottery. So, okay, another thing I want to talk about real quick here. Not real quick. I think this is a really interesting story from a recruiting perspective, and I have an interesting perspective on this. But we got this AI lawsuit currently in the state of California, specific to Workday. So happened a couple weeks ago. This has been in the news for, seems like, almost a year at this point. But Workday is being sued. Sounds like it's a class action lawsuit potentially. I'm not sure. Is it a class action? Yeah, proposed class action lawsuit February 2023 alleging Workday's applicant screening technology discriminated on the basis of age, race, and disability, violating age discrimination and Employment Act, Title IX, Civil Rights Act, Americans. The plaintiff, eventually joined by several co-plaintiffs, said that he'd applied for over 100 positions since 2017 at companies that use Workday tool for recruiting. He'd been rejected for every position, and because the rejections were often immediate or in the middle of the night, he inferred they were automated. So basically what's happening in this lawsuit is there's a class action of people suing Workday, which Workday is a technology platform, and they're suing, saying it discriminated, that the computer tools within Workday has discriminated on them based on age. And so I have an interesting perspective on this. I've seen Workday. I've worked at companies that have used Workday. I have used the product in the past. It's a difficult topic because I think that age discrimination is a real thing, and especially as a recruiter, I see this. It's a real thing. I've seen companies tell me in the past that they don't want to hire someone based on their age. I've had hiring managers ask me specifically how old a candidate is. If you're in talent acquisition, if you're in recruiting, you know that's illegal. You cannot do that. But it happens. It happens a lot. I'm not gonna out the people that do it. I think it's unfortunately like pretty common. But yeah, it's illegal. It's not a good thing. There's a lot of people with a lot of experience that shouldn't be passed over on positions that are, unfortunately, due to factors outside their control. And so I think, first off, age discrimination is like a real issue, and I don't have the answer to that. That being said, I've used Workday's platform, and what I'll say about Workday has a really good like back-end employees payroll HR software. They have a really terrible applicant tracking software. It's like one of the worst ones out there. It's absolute garbage. Sucks. It's terrible. But they have it does everything else really good. So large enterprise companies use Workday because it does have good HR features. It has really good employee tracking. It has good we're talking like benefits administration, talking like PTO administration, houses employee documents. It's a really good HR software. And then basically they built a front-end applicant tracking system because their customers asked for it. Well, that's not where they're getting their money. That's just like an added bonus that some people use. The bulk of Workday is that HR platform. The applicant tracking software is absolute garbage. It's one of the worst ones I've ever used. I don't. In 2017, certainly they were not using AI products to look at candidates, and I would be hard pressed to believe that in 2026 that they're doing that even. So I kind of wonder about the merits of this lawsuit. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to prove that their software was discriminating against people based on age. I think that's going to be really difficult to prove. I think in any other state, this lawsuit would have been thrown out already. I'm not a legal expert. I'm really interested to see about this. I have toured so many different applicant tracking systems out there, and most applicant tracking systems, I have not seen an applicant tracking software on that exists that auto rejects candidates, right? That's this whole thing. You see this constantly. It's like, oh, you got to beat the ATS. They're auto kicking your resume out. I have not seen a single platform or product on the market that does this. If there is one and you know about it, send it to me. Or if you think there is one, I will go and tour it. I would love to do more research on this. If you're a recruiter and you're saying that yours does that, let me know. I'll go find it. I'll go tour it. I'd be really curious to hear. I have seen in probably the 40 applicant tracking systems that I've looked at, I have seen 2 of them. One of them was, I think, Manitow, and it gave like a score. So like basically you had an application, someone would apply, and it would give them scores, but it wouldn't auto reject based on the scores. And frankly, I would never in a million years use that score. So that's like one of the things. Maybe you could argue like, okay, it's giving someone a bad score, and these are the factors. But I don't know. I'm not. It'll be interesting to see. I just don't even. I think Workday's product is so bad. I don't think they really even. Who knows? Maybe it's changed, but I think that's what's interesting to see here is how he says that, like, one of the things that he'd been rejected for every position, and because rejections were sometimes immediate or in the middle of the night, he inferred they were automated. There is a such thing as automated rejections, and what they'll do is this is a tale as old as time. They're called knockout questions. They'll ask you a knockout question, and every single applicant tracking system on the planet has this capability. And frankly, I use it. It's fantastic, right? If I have a job application and it is for an engineer, and that person needs to be a PE, they have to have a certain designation or certification, I'm going to put a knockout question that says, do you have this certification? And if you put no, it's going to auto reject you, and it's never going to come across my desk. So that is some things that I have used, I have seen. I'll do the same thing for adjuster things. Like when you put an Indeed ad out, or you put an ad on LinkedIn, you get 400 applications, and 300, 350 of those applications are people that have nothing to do with the industry, have no relevant experience, have like not even close to what you're looking for. So you put out knockout questions. Like a knockout question that I'll use is, do you live in this state? I have to I'm looking for a field adjuster in Minnesota. I'll put a job ad out, and I'll say, I'll say my knockout questions will be, do you live in Minnesota, or do you currently possess a Minnesota driver's license, or do you, I don't love the do you live there, but I'll put, do you have a driver's license? Do you have a Minnesota adjuster's license? And if you don't have a Minnesota, and then I'll put, do you have a designated home state license? And I'll even maybe not put the Minnesota one as required, because sometimes there's weird circumstances where you could live in Minnesota and you don't have a license, but you have a Texas license or whatever. So like, that's what I'll do. Again, everybody's different, but then you set that to automatically knock out candidates. And so basically what you're trying to do is get the people that have no relevant experience when you're trying to find someone for a job with 10 years of experience. Okay, you're just trying to get through those people. So that's probably what I would imagine is going on in this particular situation. It'll be really interesting. It's going to be near impossible to prove this. We'll see how it plans out. I'm really interested to see, but this is one of those things where you see like, oh, recruiters' jobs are going to get taken away. We see this too in the recruiters world. I know like in the claims world, they see, oh, their jobs are going away by AI. Recruiters, you see this constantly. Like, oh, you don't need recruiters. You can just use this software. It's going to make, no, you can't. And it doesn't work like that. It's not good. It's not. And this is what happens when you, I don't even think they are, but they're already getting sued. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. We'll keep an eye on that. Now we're rocking into it. If you're just joining, this is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. My name's Josh. I hang out here every Monday or Tuesday. Oh my goodness, I get my days mixed up. Every Tuesday for an hour at 9 a.m. on the Best Coast, 11 a.m. Central Time. We're competing with the World Cup right now. I think Egypt, somebody right now. US, the boys lost last night. Bummer. Happy they made it as far as they did. Not surprised they lost to Belgium, but would have been nice. Would have been cool. Would have been cool to get one more game in. Well, okay, before we get into it, this just kind of open-ended part of the live stream where I go through just some questions or things that I hear from people online or people that talk to me during the week. If you want to hop in, you got things you want to chat about, you got resume tips, interview tips, anything that's on your mind, feel free to pop in the chat. Love to hear from you. We can talk about what's on here, or we can talk about whatever you got going on too. So happy to the chat. This is just totally open format. We hang out every Tuesday for an hour, chat about whatever you want to talk about. So the whole goal here is to help 100 people get jobs in the year 2026. Again, we're up to 25, quarter of the way there. We're about halfway through the year. We've got a long ways to go. So come hang out. Ghost jobs, ghost jobs. This is a topic that I hear about all the time online. And I'm really interested to hear other perspectives on this because I have my own perspective. See if I can find this. I have my own perspective, but I read an article this week that basically said that 1/3 of all jobs posted online are ghost jobs. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like what is a ghost job? What does that even mean? Why would a company do this? And so, again, interesting perspective. I've been on the backside of this, so I kind of understand what this means. I've posted ghost jobs before. Believe it or not, hand up. I've done this. I have had companies ask me to do this. And so I'm gonna see if I can even just find this. So like, what's a ghost job? I feel like the definition of a ghost job is when someone posts a job online, but they're really not actually hiring. And why would a company might do this, or what would be the point of this? And so on my end, like for me, I mean, like you could honestly consider some of the stuff that I do online as ghost jobs, right? If you go to my website, crewtalentgroup.com, you go to I have a job section. The top one is join the Crew Talent Network. It's not really a job. I place claims adjusters in roles, and so I want to meet and connect with claims adjusters, and so that's how people get on my radar. It's not necessarily like a job. There's no job specifically that I'm hiring for maybe in that moment, even though I might be working on jobs, and maybe your skills align with what I look at, maybe not. So in a way, you could kind of consider that a ghost job. It's more of like it's not really a job. It's like, hey, join this network, and if I have openings, you're the first people I look at, right? It goes to my applicant tracking system. I go on that system. If I have a job opening, I go in there and look at the people that are in there. That's the first thing I do every time I get a job. So like in a way, that's kind of a ghost job. And I guess my take on it is it just kind of like, it's about how you present it to people. If I go online and say every single day, like I'm hiring immediately for these jobs, and really there's no jobs in the background, I think that's kind of scummy. Because people think that you are, and they wouldn't necessarily apply unless you were honest with them. And so with that dishonesty, I think is kind of scummy. That's where I think people get mad. But I'm just pulling this up right now. Like this post right here, Associated Adjusting is actively seeking adjusters for daily claims in the following areas: Alabama, Northern California, Florida, Indianapolis, Missouri, North Dakota, Omaha. Right, these aren't real jobs. They don't have jobs. They don't have claims today. But I don't think this is scummy. I think this is part of the industry, and I think that like most people are aware when they see things like this. They're aware that's how it works, right? Like my guess is this company. I have no idea. I've never heard of this company. I really don't know if they're good or bad. from what I know, that seems to be a reputable company. But my guess is they've had clients ask them about claims in these areas, or they've had clients in the past send them claims in these areas and they haven't had adjusters and they've had to turn them back. And so, is that considered like a ghost job? Are they being scummy by posting this online and saying that we need people? That I don't think so. I think that's just part of the business, and I think that most people understand that. And I think the difference is if they interview you or if they have a conversation, it just depends on how they frame it. You know, if they're saying, "Oh, I get hundreds of claims every month here, and I just need more people," when in reality they've never handled a claim there, I think that would be bad. But I don't think they're necessarily do that. I would imagine if you were a North Dakota adjuster, right? I've recruited for North Dakota for years. We all know that they don't have volume up there. Nobody's got volume in North Dakota. There's nothing there. There's not even trees there. There's more cows than people. There's no volume, but they probably get a handful of claims a year up there. So it'd be nice to have someone. And so as long as they have that conversation with somebody, you know, that's fine. I find no problem with that. But I will say I talked to somebody at ITC last year. I wish I could call them out. I should probably go find their information and call them out. This person told me that he was like in the tech world. He was not a recruiter. He was trying to sell solutions to independent broker, like independent agents. Basically, what this guy told me he was doing is he was going on Indeed. He was putting Indeed ads out, and he was basically he created an AI tool that put them through this sequence where they would put an ad out, it would reach out to them, ask them to do a virtual interview with a robot, with an AI agent. It would do a virtual interview with an AI agent, and then he would sell these leads for $20 a piece. Independent agents. And so, like, one side of that would be like, okay, well, you know, he was selling and profiting off of this. But at the end of the day, if like someone was able to get a job through that, because it sounded like they did, or at least he was telling me they were, you know, I can kind of maybe see it, but I don't know. I think that's scummy. I think that if you were to be honest with people and say that's what you were doing to begin with, I think that most people wouldn't apply for that job or wouldn't go through that interview. I think that's, I don't know. That feels icky to me. That feels gross to me. So I literally talked to the guy that told me he did that. I talked to a hiring manager last week that said they had a job on their website, and it was like it wasn't just a job. I mean, it was like a $180,000 to a $200,000 job, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of hiring. You know, if we found the right person, we would maybe hire, but we're not like in a big pinch, right? So that's kind of a ghost job in a way. I don't think that's bad. I think that's kind of normal hiring practices, and we're starting to see, like, I got a video coming out later this week about it, but there's lawsuits now, and so there's like the state of New York is trying to ban ghost jobs, and the way they're trying to do this is like you have to put all these things. You have to put the date. You can't have a job posting up for more than 2 weeks. You have to say the anticipated hire date. You have to add all these details. I don't think that really solves the problem. I think the scummy people are always going to be scummy, and it's just going to, like, added regulation for smaller companies is going to just lead to social inflation, more lawsuits, more bogus stuff on companies that aren't necessarily trying to be malicious. So kind of interesting. I think it's a really interesting topic, and it's a really hot topic, especially on like TikTok and some of these different platforms about ghost jobs. But I think the big thing that you can take away from it is looking at some of the information on these job posts. Has it been up for 45 days? You know, how long has it been? Like, sometimes on Indeed, you can see how many applications and how long it's been on there. And so if they've got 700 applications, it's been there for 45 days, it's probably not real. I wouldn't get your hopes up. You know, things like that. The other one I see sometimes, let's see if I can find this. I don't know if I should call these guys out. I think this is a little bit scummy. Do this. Call these people out. I don't know these people. I feel weird about this. Mile High Adjusters. Mile High Adjusters is a reputable training place. I know people that have been to Mile High Adjusters. I think it's a franchise. They have good training. But what they do is they post jobs on these different platforms. And it's really selling a training class. I think that's interesting. I don't like this. Again, I think they are a reputable training platform. I know people that have gone there. I know there used to be one in Denver. I think that's why it's Mile High, and I know they franchised it. I don't know the owner of this place, so if you know these people, tag them. I don't know, but I don't love how they do this. So they go to all these different locations, right? If you go to any city in the U.S., Hillsboro, that's like 15 minutes away. Yeah, yeah. I've seen several times where a job is posted on LinkedIn for a company. You go to their website and they say they have no job openings at this time. That's interesting. You know, a lot of companies, their Indeed will be hooked up to their actual job posting platform, and so when they click that job's full, it just automatically does it. You wonder sometimes people just forget to do that, but that's where I would always go for the source of truth, is the company website. I think applying on a company website is always going to yield you more results than Indeed. You find a job on Indeed, I would highly recommend going to the company website and taking a look there. It's gonna be you're gonna be. Indeed's crazy. I'm telling you guys, Indeed's insane. When you're a recruiter, it's literally hundreds of resumes, and if it doesn't all source to the same spot, if they have to post it in different spots, you're gonna have better luck. A lot of times, you apply on Indeed, you apply on Monster.com. Like, you go on an applicant tracking system, and there's just like check boxes: post on Indeed, post on Monster, and you can just post on all these different sites for free. So you just click them all, because why not? And it all routes to the same place. But if they don't have the fancy ATS, and they make a job on Indeed, they make a job on LinkedIn, they make a job on their website, go apply on their website. It's the best place to apply. It's going to give the most information that they're actually looking for. That's how you want to do it. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, I think these training platforms, Adjusters needed. It's like they're not hiring people. They're selling a training class. I think that's a weird practice. I don't like it. I think that I see it constantly in like Reddit threads. People will be like, "What's with this job posting? Is this real?" And I try and comment on those and call it out for what it is. Again, I think it's probably really good training, but it's not a job, and so they shouldn't be advertising it as if it's a job. Yeah, it's a good training platform, but it's not paying for a training class. Learn for good. Let's see what this looks like. Contract position. It's not a contract position. There's a demand for new adjusters. Again, I'm not disagreeing with what's being said here. I just don't like how they advertise it. So that's on the topic of ghost jobs. I think that's an interesting concept. I'm sure it works. I'm sure it's effective, and that's why they do it. But I think it's a little bit misleading. I'd say at least it's misleading. I know people who have been to Mile High Adjusters who now make well over 6 figures as claims adjusters. But they do not work for Mile High claims. Anyways, no. Interesting stuff. I don't know. I think it's about intent. I don't like regulations, though. It's like Colorado. The state of Colorado recently required that you have to put your salary range in the job posting. And I think that's kind of an interesting regulation. What we see now, a lot of companies, is they just put like, we won't accept applications from Colorado, which is so weird. But you just basically see the big organizations cover their butts. You introduce a bunch of regulations around this, you're gonna have big companies, then they're gonna have they have compliance teams. They got the opportunity to do it. The bad actors are going to follow the law because they're bad actors. They don't want to actually get in trouble. Like, who does it hurt? It hurts that little mom and pop that accidentally left that job on Indeed for 3 weeks because they forgot it's there because the recruiter's buried. All of a sudden, they're getting sued by some Facebook lawyer who's watching Indeed ads. Like, I don't think that's really a good thing. I don't think it solves the problem. I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm not always sure regulation. I don't hate the idea of what happened in Colorado though. I mean, that's maybe the devil's advocate side is like that. I like forcing companies to then post job salary ranges. I don't think that's necessarily been a bad outcome. I think that's maybe been a good thing. I think that every company should post their salary ranges. I certainly try to. Or you see the crazy ones. You see like salary range 0 to or 40 to 170,000. They posted the job range. Okay, what else we got? I talked a long time about that. On the topic of salaries and jobs and how much pay bands and all that stuff, salary bands. Something I've been working on a little bit recently. How do you determine what a role pays, and how do companies figure this out? And so, I think it's interesting from kind of both perspectives, like the job seeker and also the company perspective. Like, how do you figure out what a role is worth and how different companies are paying? And I think it's really interesting. And that's one of the things I enjoy as a recruiter is talking to people, learning. Something I'm doing right now for a client is trying to kind of get a better understanding of what a specific role in a very niche market might be worth. And so one of the things that I'm doing is just connecting with people and having conversations. So learning, they have an idea in their head of like kind of what they want to pay. And I'm trying to kind of figure out if that's feasible. So the first thing I did is look at some local things. Like Glassdoor has geography based pay bands where you can go in and see people with certain job titles with different companies. People put in their information. It's self-reported, so it's fairly accurate, but you don't know 100%. There's companies like salary.com that have, paid and free subscriptions where you can go in and look. And again, it's sometimes geography based, but what I'm looking at right now is a very niche geography based office role. And so for me, it's like, I'm just trying to talk to everybody that I possibly can. And so I identified like about 100 people in that market with similar job titles, some a little higher job titles than I need, some a little bit lower. And I'm just trying to get in conversations with as many people as I can and learn. And my conversation is normally not just like, hey, what does this pay? Or how much do you make? As a recruiter, there's some laws and regulations around that. Like in the state of California, it's illegal to ask somebody how much they're making at their current job. So typically, I'm just kind of honest with people and say, hey, I'm kind of working on a role, trying to figure out what the bands are. Do you have any idea? Kind of, you're a little closer to the ground in this market. What do you think? And people normally talk, and I think it's interesting. People sometimes want to hear what other companies are paying, and so the valuable conversation. I had a really great conversation with someone last week who, it wasn't really a fit for the role. He was a little bit further on in his career than what maybe we were looking for, but got to have a really awesome conversation with him and kind of see where he was at. And he gave me some really good insights as to a competitor company, and I was able to give him some kind of interesting insights as, again, like another competitor, how they look at salary. And so I think it's good to talk to recruiters if you're wondering about these things, even if you're not necessarily looking, but it's a good way to kind of gauge what your market value might be for a particular position. You can also look on Glassdoor. But we place people, like I place people in these types of roles, and so I understand kind of what the competitive marketplace is, even with a number of different companies. So kind of give ranges, kind of give some of the pros and cons, working at a TPA, working at a carrier, even in the independent market. Like, one thing I find really interesting about independent adjusters is when people hire on staff adjusters for their companies, how they compensate them. Really interesting. There's a million different ways that companies do it. So seeing how the different companies approach compensation, approach commission, approach bonuses, things like that. I think, yeah, the best way to learn is to talk to people on the ground and talk to people in different companies and talk to people with different job titles. And I think people are sometimes weary to tell you how much they make, but I think it's benefits everybody to talk about it. And there's laws now that say, like, kind of protect people. Can't really be you can openly talk about how much you make with your coworkers in most states. I think it's a federal law. I don't quote me on that for sure, but at least in Colorado, where I used to live, and I'm certain in Oregon, you can't, nothing bad can happen for you telling your coworker how much you make. I think it's important to have conversations, and I think that companies that hide behind it, it's kind of a bad sign. Like if you're worried about pay inequity, then you probably have pay inequity, and that's probably not a good thing. You can talk and communicate. Here's the pay bands for this range. Here's how you get to the next range. Here's like what steps you need to take, and here's like the pathway to do that. Here's why this person makes this. Here's why. I mean, I think like we could talk about unions and how I don't always necessarily agree with everything in unions, but one of the things I think unions do very well is to communicate that to their members and talk about like pathways on how to make money. So I don't think there's a whole lot of adjuster unions. I'm certainly not advocating unless I guess I'm not advocating against it. I'm just, it's an interesting concept, I guess. Let's put it that way. There's certainly good things about unions. There's certainly things about unions that sometimes aren't great. But the one thing that unions certainly do well is communicate salary and compensation really effectively and give people pathways. Yeah, I think the issue then becomes like people don't like. Problem with unions sometimes is that you don't necessarily get paid on your skill level or your ability to do a job. Sometimes it ends up being like tenure based, and we all know that being at a company the longest doesn't best at a job, and so it's sometimes can be difficult if you're newer to break through, even if you might be really good at what you do. So that's one of the issues that sometimes happens with unions. Yeah, talk to recruiters, talk to people on the ground, check out Glassdoor, check out salary.com, use AI. Talked about weather already a little bit. Real quick, we got 5 minutes left. Won't go super deep into this right now, but I think it's a topic that I really enjoy is how to structure interviews and different interview questions that people ask. And I saw a video, again, his name's Mike Pedito on TikTok. Really, really, really sharp guy. Really good content. He's an HR leader. He's been doing it a lot longer than I have. And he made a video recently that was like why you should ask as a candidate, why you should ask behavioral questions in an interview. So these are like the tell me about a time when. And I'm a huge advocate of these questions I think that that's the most effective way to interview somebody. I think that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, right? If you've done something, if you're approached with a situation or you handle a situation 10 times, the way that you handle that situation the past 10 times is a predictor of the way that you're going to handle that same situation in the future. So that's why companies ask these particular questions. Like, how would you handle this? It's like, no, how have you done this in the past? Have you? And it doesn't necessarily need to be like you have to do all the things, but maybe that's how have you handled a difficult customer, right? You like if you're an adjuster, you're certainly going to handle difficult customers. That doesn't necessarily need to be how have you handled a difficult customer as an adjuster if you don't have experience or it's an entry level job. You're going after particular behaviors, and then ideally you have some sort of goal in mind. So you're looking for someone with certain traits, and so depending on the position, depending on the company, depending on the culture, depending on your specific company, it may be different what different companies are looking at when they ask that question. And so what I always recommend to companies that I'm talking to or working with is have like 3 or 4 behaviors or competencies that you're specifically looking for, identify those. And what ways you can identify what those competencies are is look at your best adjusters or look at the best person on your team and say, what do I like about that person? What does that person have that makes them so good at their job? And then you're going to list off 3 or 4 things. And those are the things that you're going to be looking for, because you've identified those characteristics are what makes someone good at this job. So you want to find people and specifically search for those particular characteristics. And then have, list off four competencies: time management, conflict resolution, and so then you can ask a behavioral based question about, tell me about a time when you've managed conflict in your role as an adjuster before. And that's a question you can kind of have like an idea of what you're looking for, and then you can score that question. So I always think it's good to have behavioral based questions and then scorecards based on those questions. So then one of your scores would be like conflict resolution 1 to 5, and then you kind of build in your head, or even on that score sheet, what is a 5 and what is a 1, and then that way it's somewhat of an objective way to score people during an interview. That's why I love behavioral based job interview questions. One of the things Mike was saying in his video was, you as the person being interviewed can also ask behavioral job questions. So one of the things, like, let's say I'm interviewing for a job and I really want to move up, and that's what's really on my mind. I could ask the interviewer, how do you handle like people that want to move up? Or I want to, I really want to like learn new skills and do different things and move up in my role. How can I do that? Or a better question is a behavioral based question. Tell me about a time when you as a manager were a part of someone working here, like moving up in their role. Tell me about how that happened. What did they do? And if they can't answer that question, that's way more effective than saying like, how can I move up in this role? They're going to lie to you, right? But if you could say, tell me about a time when, or tell me about a time when you've had to resolve conflict between two adjusters. Like, how did you do that? You can learn about your manager's style. So I think behavioral based questions are incredibly effective from the interviewer standpoint, but also as someone being interviewed, you can ask these same style of questions right back. And I would be so fired up if someone asked me a question like that, or if I was sitting in on an interview and someone asked a question like that, I would love to hear. But it's a better way to analyze the data. It's a better way to like really understand someone, especially if they're your hiring manager. They're going to be working with this person. It's a really good way to interview them. Remember, you're being interviewed, but you're also interviewing the company. So big fan of behavioral based interview questions. I could do an hour on behavioral based interview questions. I have a whole book that I've read, like 700 behavioral based interview questions. And then it goes through all topics on how to ask them, why, all this stuff. So really interesting stuff. But that's what I got. It's 10. We're past the hour, so appreciate if you've stuck this far in it. Appreciate y'all joining in. Bailey, Nate, Caleb, y'all been hanging out. It's been a couple weeks, y'all, so I really appreciate you guys stopping by, hanging out, chatting with me. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Hope the claims come in for y'all independent adjusters. Hopefully it's a busy rest of the season. It's a busy couple weeks here for you. That's one we'll talk about next week, maybe. Again, this is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. We're up to 25 out of 100 people help get jobs in the insurance industry. I'd love to see that number keep climbing. So anything I can do to assist y'all in your job journeys, I'm here. Reach out to me, DMs. I'm on every social media platform I can think of. Got Greg in the chat. Thanks for joining in, Greg. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully you found some value. Again, yeah, feel free to reach out to me directly. This is the best way to reach me on Tuesdays right here, but hit me up, joshrecruittalentgroup.com, on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, Strava, whatever.